Katara is one of the sweetest, kindest, and most empathetic people in Avatar: The Last Airbender. She is also in possession of a cruel, ice-cold, callous dark side. These two truths do not necessarily contradict each other. She is an idealist committed to change, not just because she wants to make the world better, but because she is aware of how pitch black the current condition of the world really is. The war is not just an inconvenience or even a disaster or tragedy. The oppressors have names and faces, and she wants to see them face consequences for their actions. More than any other character on Team Avatar besides Zuko, Katara carries within her the potential to go off on a dark and disturbing path. It's not hard to picture her ending up like one of The Legend of Korra's thoughtful and interesting but extremist villains. Of course, it's not a given that she would have gone down this dark path had she killed the person who killed her mother, but by refusing to kill this person, she wholeheartedly rejects that path. She does not choose forgiveness, and I appreciate how the writers validate the melancholy and bitterness lingering inside her. Too many lesser shows would have forced her to forgive her mother's murder, as Aang longs for her to do. But she doesn't. She can't. These feelings will always be with her, and it is a mistake to pretend they can be easily resolved, just like that. This isn't like a special episode of the day, like a lot of cheesy old shows had, where characters deal with something serious, they get help from their friends and loved ones, and then, with the power of love and friendship, they're magically better. Life doesn't work like that, and Avatar really appreciates the depth of Katara's despair. It's not what she feels that makes her moral or immoral, it's what actions she decides to take. Katara is a living, breathing rebuttal to the idea that having strong, passionate feelings makes you a weak, or fragile, or easily manipulated person. If Katara did not want revenge, or wanted it but did not yearn for it, did not believe that it was an answer to the great cloud of sorrow swirling through her, then her deciding to not kill, to spare her mother's murderer, would not have mattered. It's a variation on the old, "Is it heroic for Superman to save someone?" question. If Superman saves someone from, say, getting hit by a train, is it as brave of an action as it would be if a normal person decided to do the same thing, considering that Superman is in no danger because of his invulnerability? I'd say no. This is why flawed characters tend to be interesting. If a character gets to where they want to go without encountering debilitating personal obstacles on the way to that triumph, then it's not a triumph at all. It's just perfunctory. Only when there is a chance of a character failing does their success resonate, and that is exactly what happens with Katara here. The first time I watched The Southern Raiders, I was 15 years old. It caught me by surprise. Not because I didn't think it was a masterpiece, I did. Even back then I realized how daring and somber and honest it was. You know, logically, that Katara is not going to kill him. The show is not going to allow that to happen. And yet you get drawn into this tension anyway. You believe that Katara wants to kill this man, and that she's willing to take the steps necessary to achieve that goal. I kept thinking that they were going to turn the episode into some cop-out, tee-hee, just kidding, of course she wouldn't do that, kind of vapid moralistic lesson. But the show just keeps pushing into darker and rawer territory. And when Katara finally does decide not to kill him, it's earned. You understand where she's coming from. It's devastating. It's not cheap. I loved this episode on my first viewing of it, but I wondered whether it had been set up by the rest of the show. But when I watched the show for a second time, a couple months later, looking for signs of Katara's dark side, I found them everywhere. Scenes I had written off as largely comedic, such as Katara stealing the waterbending scroll from those pirates in episode 109, or her callous comments about Toph's blindness in episode 208, took on a much darker context. It's not like I didn't notice her ruthlessness toward Jet when they meet again in Ba Sing Se in Season 2, or her ruthlessness in how she treats Zuko after Zuko betrays her at the end of Season 2. But not until the Southern Raiders did I understand how important these moments were to her character journey throughout Avatar. They're not just one-offs. They're not just little things to make her seem less perfect, like the show does with Aang when he doesn't like people coming in to the Northern Air Temple in episode 117. No, Katara's flaws are not so surface level. They go a lot deeper, and as such they're a lot more interesting, and they eventually lead to her final confrontation with her dark side here. Katara commits herself to giving others another chance, no matter who they are, but when they betray her, the emergence of her dark side is sudden. Aang retains the same Pollyanna-ish attitude throughout Avatar. Sure, he broods when things go wrong, such as when he fails at the end of Season 2, or when his friends expect him to kill the Fire Lord near the end of Season 3, but he does not externalize these disappointments. What I mean is that he never allows them to fundamentally affect his worldview. He continues to believe that people are good, for the most part. They're moral, they're committed to doing the right thing. They deserve to be given as many opportunities as possible. Katara, however, is disappointed regularly. Her sincerity, her honesty, her willingness to bare her soul to an uncaring world is fundamental to her sensitivity, to her compassion for others, to her unwavering commitment to what is right. But it also opens her up to pain and suffering and despondency, and she resents this, especially because she does not have anyone who can help her in these types of dark existential crisis. The other members of Team Avatar go to her for comfort and empathy, but where does she go? She needs those things as much as anyone. Her closeness with Zuko as the series progresses stems largely from how he is the only character to understand the dread and fear and anxiety that is threatening to tear her soul asunder. As she becomes a better waterbender, the dangers of her dark side grow exponentially. At the start of the show, she does not understand herself. How could she? She's been locked away in the South Pole all her life, and she's been forced into a caretaker role she did not ask for. Just as she knows little about bending, she knows little about herself. She's always had to pay attention to others. As she grows, her dark side emerges more fully. She becomes a bloodbender, and she's afraid of what she can accomplish. Katara can be very cruel when she wants to be, and this is most notable in her behavior towards Zuko. After calling Zuko a terrible person, she exclaims that war and violence are in his blood just because he is the son of the Fire Lord. When Zuko tries and fails to join the group, she almost admits to wanting to kill him if he ever comes back. Though she does not allow this sentiment to quite exit her mouth, she says basically the same thing in less ambiguous language at the end of the episode after Zuko joins. She doubts Zuko's transformation, I love how Mae Whitman, Katara's voice actress, just spits that word, transformation, with the utmost loathing and cynicism. She says that if he betrays Aang, and what she really means is if he betrays her again, he won't have to worry about his destiny anymore. She'll make sure of that. These are not taunts like the kind Sokka or Toph toss around casually. There's no ego here. There's no arrogance. It's just a pure, unadorned statement of purpose. As Katara grows, so does her dark side. The only way to overcome this dark side is, paradoxically, to face it. She has to confront her bitterness towards Zuko and her lingering trauma about the event that, at the risk of being reductionist, created that dark side, the death of her mother. The show does not explicitly spell out why Zuko believes she has to go on this journey, but it doesn't have to. Zuko, throughout Season 2, finds himself pushing toward change. He had a warm, tender relationship with his uncle, a decent job at a high-end tea shop, a possibly romantic bond with Katara, certainly a very intimate bond, and the knowledge that his old worldview, his old way of thinking, is wrong. It does not take into account the experiences of the suffering of everyone who's been deprived of basic resources and of peace of mind and of the people they care about by the war wrought by the Fire Nation. And yet, despite acknowledging all this, he still chooses Azula. Only after indulging in the charms of the Fire Nation does he realize that he is unsatisfied. He leads Katara through roughly the same process, and she comes to the same conclusion. I don't want this. I don't want to be the kind of person who wants this. I want to be good. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching Avatar. It is an intimate, insightful show that is finally getting the reputation it deserves. Let's hope it keeps growing in popularity. I really hope the live-action show is great, too. I love how it allows Katara to be more than just the caretaker of the group. She's cunning, she's passionate, she even has this uncomfortable but fascinating dark side. Just a great character all around. Anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. Thank you all again. Check out that new Taylor Swift album if you haven't already. It's really good. Anyway, adios, comrades!